There's a sentence I hear constantly in expat circles, almost always said lightly, almost like a disclaimer. Well, of course, I'm not earning right now. Said with a little laugh, said as a fact, not a complaint. Everyone nods, everyone's heard it before, and nobody asks the follow-up question. What does that actually do to you? If you're in the early stages of an expat move, maybe you've decided to go or you're in the first year abroad, there's a good chance one of you has stopped or will stop earning, at least temporarily. Maybe it's you, maybe it's your partner. It's so common in this expat world that it barely registers as a topic. It's just the arrangement, the trade-off for this wonderful adventure together, the thing you both agreed to. And that's exactly the problem. It's mentioned everywhere in all the expat circles, but examined nowhere. We talk about visas, schools, culture shock, homesickness, and financial dependence does get one sentence. It's being said lightly, and we all nod in agreement that of course it is a factor, but then we move on, as if naming it were the same as understanding it. I want to spend this video doing the thing nobody does, actually looking at what it does. Not whether it's fair, not whether you should feel in a certain way about it, just what it does mechanically to how two people experience their own relationship when these financial dynamics change. Let me start small. Picture this. You want to buy your partner something for their birthday. Nothing big. You want it to be a surprise though, because that's half the point of the gift. Now, before, this was nothing. You had your own account, your own card, your own money. That was, in the most basic sense, unaccountable. Not that you had to hide anything or that you didn't want to share it, but because nobody needed to know when or where you bought something. You'd buy it and it'd show up on a statement that only you looked at, and the surprise stayed a surprise until the moment that you wanted to stop being one. Now the money runs through a shared account, or maybe through an account that's technically yours, but the income landing in it is your partner's salary routed to you, sometimes with a company allowance stapled onto it because you happen to be in a personal relationship with the person that they're relocating. And that may seem different, having that own account, but I want you to ask yourself if it really is by the end of this video. Anyway, so how do you buy the gift? Cash, maybe, if you squirreled some away. A separate account that you top up in advance. Maybe it's a slightly awkward conversation about, needing some cash this week that you hope doesn't get flagged or questioned. And in fact, it technically never may be questioned. Maybe nobody ever asks you to justify your spendings. That's not the point. The point is that you had to think about it. You had to solve a small logistical problem that used to not exist. Now, I'm not going to spend long on this. It's the kind of thing you can kind of predict if you sit down and think about this for 30 seconds. But here's what I do actually want to talk about. That small practical fact is the seed of something much bigger and much less visible. Here's the second scene, and this one isn't about logistics anymore. You're at a cafe with a friend, back home or in your new city, it doesn't matter. You want a coffee and something to go with it. $9.50. And there's a beat, a small one, easy to miss if you wouldn't be looking for it, where you think, is this okay? Nobody asks you that question. Your partner isn't checking receipts or the bank account. They've never once said, do you really need that? They'd probably even be a little hurt if they knew you were asking yourself that question on their behalf. Because from where they're standing, Of course it's fine. It's your money too. That was the whole arrangement. And yet, the $9.50 for coffee doesn't feel the same as the $9.50 used to feel. It's not about the number. It's about where the money came from and where it's going. Because you didn't generate it. You're spending it on something with no return, no necessity, no line item justification, just because you wanted it. And this is the part I actually want you to sit with, because it's the part that gets skipped every time this topic comes up in our expat circles. Financial dependence isn't just a logistical problem you solve with your own bank account, a cash stash, and a workaround. It's a felt sense of who has the standing to spend freely and who has to invisibly earn their spending back through some internal ledger no one can see. Now, I do want to be careful here, because this is exactly where this conversation could go wrong. Most of what's written about financial dependence in relationships is about control, about one partner deliberately restricting the other, demanding receipts, doling out allowances, using money as leverage. That's real and it matters, but it is not this video. If that's your situation, please get support that's built specifically for that. But I want to talk about something different. What happens when nobody is asking any questions? When the person earning the income or the higher earning partner would be genuinely upset to learn their partner feels this way. When there's no control, no restriction, no permission required, and the shift in how it feels to spend money happens anyway. There's a body of research on money management in couples, and there's one study I keep coming back to, and I'll link it in the description for you. This study looked at how couples handle spending decisions, and it made two findings that I think map onto this almost exactly. The first is couples who see their relationship as an equal partnership built on love, sharing, and fairness still manage money in ways that reflect the power balance between them. Not because they're lying to each other, yet the system itself does this, unspoken or even unconsciously, underneath the relationship the couple thinks they're in. You can be completely equal in every conversation you have and still be unequal in who the money runs through. The second finding is the one that surprised me even more. When either partner made spending decisions on their own, separate, both people reported being less satisfied. Not just the person left out, both of them. Solo financial decision making, even by the person who's allowed to make it because they generate the income, quickly costs the whole relationship something. Now hold on to that. I'm coming back to it. Separately, there's a well-established idea in psychology that dependency itself in any form reduces something specific: your sense of autonomy, your capacity to make a choice without needing to check, negotiate, or justify it, even if it's internally, even to nobody outside there. That capacity is one of the first things to invisibly shrink when you're financially dependent on someone else, regardless of how kind, how fair, or how non-controlling that someone else is. That's the coffee. That's the birthday gift. That's the beat, the second before you order, the workaround before the surprise. It's why you volunteer to explain them every time why that purchase was justified. It's that icky feeling of not wanting to take advantage of someone else's hard-earned dollars. And this is not even about the money itself. It's autonomy doing exactly what the research says it does, when it's structurally reduced, even in a relationship with no controller in it at all. I want to add one more layer because I think this is often missing when this topic does come up. This isn't only weight on the person who stopped earning. There's a version of this that lands on the earning partner too, and it's really worth naming. If you're the one bringing in the income, you didn't ask to become the sole financial conduit for two people's lives. You didn't ask for every joint decision to quietly become your call by default simply because the money passes through you first. Even if you never wanted that authority, even if you'd hand half of it back in a second, the structure hands it to you anyway. That has its own kind of weight. Not the same type of weight that your partner is carrying, but a real one nonetheless. And this is where that second research finding earns its place. Remember, solo decision making, even by the allowed partner, was linked to lower satisfaction for both people. That's not a coincidence. It suggests that the fix isn't the earning partner working harder to be generous or the non-earning partner working harder to feel less guilty. It's coming down to making financial decisions jointly, genuinely, not performatively, because that's the one thing the research says protects both people, not just one. And I believe this is also why it's not a complete solution to set up a separate bank account for the non-working partner and just channel some of the funds in there. Because this is still money they didn't generate themselves. Without the joint decisions and good conversations around it, sure, maybe the birthday surprise logistics have been solved, but other than that, this is still the exact same situation, just attached to a different bank card and PIN code. So back to that sentence. Well, of course, I'm not earning right now. I don't think you need to stop saying it. I think you need to stop saying it so lightly, because underneath that light, practical, expat circle sentence is a real psychological shift, one that happens without any earning partner demanding or questioning anything, one that both people in the relationship can carry without either of them ever naming it for years, until it's calcified into a form of resentment later in a way that neither of you can trace back its original source. Naming it doesn't fix it, but it's the only thing that makes it possible to talk about instead of living inside of it unspoken. If this is a conversation you're having or avoiding having in your own relationship right now, I'd start there. Not with a budget spreadsheet or a strategy on bank accounts, but with this question out loud to each other with a nice cup of tea. Does spending money feel different for either of us than it used to, and why? If we haven't met yet, my name is Ava, Expat Transition Coach and Advisor. If this is the first time someone's put a feeling into words for you, that's exactly what this channel is for. I've got more coming on what really changes in the relationship's balance during a move like this. And today's video is one piece of a bigger picture I'll keep building here. So tell me in the comments, whether you're the one generating the income or not, what's your version of the $9.50 coffee? And also, what suggestions can you give to other expat couples to maybe talk about or manage when it comes to what happens because of the financial shift? Leave it in the comments below to help others on their journey and live life a little more full, because everyone deserves to live life fully, no matter where in the world they are or for how long.